3. Yeah. Hello everybody, I'm Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and we watercolor regularly here. We do it every single week, a different project. We give you supplies so you can get them from us. This week we are doing a hedgehog. He's so cute. Right, Keenan?
So cute.
So cute. We have 5 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. We have sepia, which is just like a brown. We have yellow ochre, which is like a deep yellow. We have azure blue. We have violet, and we have rose red. So those are our 5. We're using 2 brushes, around 6 and around 2. And if you're like, I don't know anything about art supplies, where do I get this? Well, my friend, you can go to letsmakeart.com. We list all the supplies we use. You can get the bottles, you can get the brushes, and maybe if you don't want the full set, you can just buy this kit. It comes with cute little mini bottles like so. Look how cute it is. It's enough paint. It looks small, but I'm telling you, these paints are concentrated, definitely enough paint.
Almost as cute as that hedgehog.
Those little bottles are almost as cute as this cute little hedgehog. So this little baby has 5 steps. Step number 1, we're gonna do the face wash. That means we're gonna put color on the face with a wash. You'll see. Step 2, hold on, I lost my notes. The spike shadows. We are going to put in the shadows of the spikes. Step 3, we're gonna blend those suckers out, okay? We love blending. We love letting water do all of the work for us. Step 4, we're gonna do like the white furry part on this head thing. And then step 5, the very last step, Keenan, can you guess what it is?
I don't think I can.
His face. I wish you guys could see his face when I asked him that. 'Cause he's like, I can't, I don't. It's details. Details is our very last step, so that's when we do eyeballs and noses and whiskers. If you feel up to putting whiskers, you can choose not to do that. So, I think we're ready to get started. We ready?
That was mean.
I'm sorry to freak you out. This is Keenan's first time filming this by himself, and you're doing great, Keenan.
Thank you, I appreciate
You're
that.
doing great. All right, so we're gonna start with putting in the color on our face a little bit. So let me turn this little reference photo over so you know what I'm talking about. Now it's like around the nose, around the eyes, and we're gonna do the ears. So I'm going to grab a little bit of the sepia, bring it to the middle, and then I'm gonna grab just a tiny, tiny bit of violet.
Sarah?
Yes.
Could you pull that reference photo down a little bit closer to the pad?
Is that better?
Much better.
Fabulous. Okay, so I have a little bit of this violet and the brown in here. And the reason why I like mixing colors and not just using with straight color is because, one, when you mix colors, you make it your own. Because mixing, you know, everybody mixes at different degrees. So it becomes your painting. And 2, I feel like you just get a depth of color and a richness when you include other colors with the one color, okay? So don't be afraid to play. That's why I like these big old palettes where you can mix all of this stuff on. So I'm just gonna start kind of filling in around the nose. And that's a little dark for me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna rinse my brush and just use water. And I'm gonna spread out this color just a little bit. Now we do kind of want just like the softest hint of pink on here. Because you know how like animal skin, it's similar to like that human skin where it has like that touch of pink or I can't think of other colors, but basically it's like a pinkiness that we're gonna add around here. So I'm just laying that right on top, kind of blending it out. And then I'm just going to kind of keep on blending this color because I want this wash to be really light. And you might be like, whoa, what's a wash? A wash is when you just lay down paint and water simultaneously at the same time. And you can get different degrees of washes. Like a super heavy wash or a dark wash is when you have lots and lots of paint on your brush and a little bit of water. A light wash is when it's mostly water and just a little bit of paint. So what I like to do, for me, this is just my watercolor style, is I like to put color down and then I like to kind of rinse my brush and only use water to spread that color out. And then you're gonna get this really soft light wash. Now, if you're new to watercolor, but you've painted with other materials, that might stress you out because you might be like, that's very little color that I'm seeing, and you might feel like you have to go really dark. Don't feel that way. I feel like the beauty of watercolor is the subtleness. That's the word, right? That's a good word. You just want these really soft color changes. You want really light layers. So embrace that water element to it, okay? Don't let that stress you out. So I'm just gonna kind of keep going on. I'm gonna do a little bit more of just the sepia as I get around here to introduce some warmth back into it. And I'm using mostly water to just kind of spread this out.
And that's what the washing out is?
Yeah, so a wash, so like just this, me picking up paint with a little bit of a wet brush, putting it, this is like a wash we're putting down right now. It's happening right in front of your eyes.
Spectacular.
You're a part of it, I'm a part of it, you're a part of it. It's a great moment.
It's a moment for all of us
It's
to
a
enjoy.
moment, yes, that we can just like sit back and be like, look at what's happening on my paper. It's beautiful. Okay. Let's do another little round around like the lips and nose. And the reason why we want to do this, because you'll see on the outline right here, there's like, I did a little curved line. I'll show you on the outline. Here's our outline that comes in the kits, if you want one. I have this little curved outline, and that's because we're trying to say to our viewer that the lips part of the mouth is actually coming out more. So this part is sticking out, and then this part is going like back away from us. And so you just have to make sure that there's kind of like a value change between there, like where it's a little bit darker in the front and then a little bit softer. And then that's how we kind of communicate that they're not on the same plane. If they were the same even wash, both of them, it would just seem flat. So if anytime you're trying to create dimension or space and show that these two areas are not on the same plane, they need to be different values. Okay, that's a little tip for you guys. Fun little art tip. Okay, now we're gonna do the ears. So for the ears, I'm just going to grab my sepia here, and I'm gonna do a dark layer kind of right at the top on these corners. I'm not going to go all the way around. I'm pretty much just going to do kind of like a thick edge, and then it kind of like pitters out. Okay? And then I'm going to grab some of that sepia and a tiny bit of this red, rose red. I always forget if it's rose red or red rose. Rose red. Okay? And we're gonna get that same peachy skin color that we want, like with ears. It's the same thing with dogs, where when fur's not covering it, you see like that skin color underneath. So
earlier referred to it as pinky-ish.
Pinky, yes.
Yes.
Pink, I think that's the technical term actually.
Yes.
Pinky-ish color.
Yes.
Thank you, Keenan.
You're welcome.
So I'm just gonna introduce that to the ear. Now when it hits my sepia, it's gonna blend out a little bit. That's okay. We don't get mad at that, okay? We kind of want that loose watercolor feel. Don't let it stress you out. It's just watercolor doing its thing, you know? We embrace it. Yeah, and if you want like extra pinkiness, mix in a little extra pink. Drop it in. Okay, you guys, that's step one. We did it. Amazing. Now we're gonna move on to step two, which is we're gonna put in our spiked shadows. Now, if you look on our outline, I have all of these like dashes, okay? And basically what we're going to do is we are going to put in these dashes using a really dark color, and then we're just gonna blend them out. And that's how we're gonna kind of create this idea of like a spiky fur texture. Now, just to be clear, there are many, many ways that you can paint things. My style is I like to do more gestural. I like to give you the idea of the texture without having to go in there and paint every single little spike. That's my style. So that's how we're gonna do it. If you wanna try a different way, go ahead, it's your painting. Okay, So to get this really dark color, I don't want to use just sepia. I don't want to use just brown. I want to introduce some other colors in there because one, I want the color to be darker, and two, because when I blend it out, I want some color changes. See how excited my eyes got when I said that?
It's a genuine excitement.
I was truly excited at the idea of these color changes coming out. So I'm going to grab some, like a big old swoop of sepia, put it in the middle, grab some yellow ochre, put it in the middle, grab some violet, put it in the middle, grab some blue, put it in the middle, grab some red. All of the colors. That's what you're putting in here. And now I have this like really deep reddish brown, okay? Now, should I go over the color wheel with them?
I think you should. I was actually going to ask if you could.
Okay, what? Keenan, we're on the same level. Great.
Same page.
Okay. Oh, I also wanted to mention I'm using toilet paper. It's better if you have paper towel. I just am like, make it work with what you have kind of gal. So if you have paper towel at home, use that instead of toilet paper. Okay?
Why?
I just wanted to say that. Because I feel like when you're picking up color and stuff, the paper towel actually absorbs better.
Okay.
As opposed to toilet paper, it's a little thin. I guess it depends on what brand you buy.
That's true. Might buy that double ply, that fancy.
If you get that fancy toilet paper, it might work out for you. Okay, so a color wheel. Let me draw on this. If you're mixing colors and let's say you mix this brown and you're like, that brown is just too red. I need to take out some of that red. And you're like, what do I do? What do I do to take out some of that red? Well, you're gonna add red's complementary color. So if you make a color wheel, you just do the 6 colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And you're like, man, this mixture is too red. What do I do to kind of diffuse that color? You're gonna go with what's right across the color wheel. So I'm gonna add green to that. And you might be like, well, shoot, green is not one of my colors in my palette. Well, guess what? You can mix green using blue and yellow. So if I have my brown color right now, it's looking too red, I'm gonna add a little bit other yellow and a tiny bit of blue. And that's gonna diffuse that red. You see that? It's diffused.
That's incredible.
It's not as red. Pretty cool, you guys, pretty cool. Okay, so just kind of play with that as you go, and it might be the opposite problem. You might be like, this is looking really blue. How do I get rid of this blue look? Well, then the opposite of blue is orange. So you're gonna add a little bit of yellow and a little bit of red, and that will take down some of that blue. So just play with it, okay? Make it yours. And I'm just gonna add another swoop of colors because I like my mixture to be nice and dark and strong. Okay, so now
soupy.
Soupy, muddy. Muddy is what we're going for here. That's the goal. Okay, so now I have this really dark brown color, and I'm gonna start putting in the spikes. But basically how I'm gonna put in the spikes is I'm just going to do kind of dashes. That kind of like, and you'll see, and if you look on your outline, you can kind of see this too, but we want the spikes to have a direction, okay? We're not going in here and just kind of doing spikes up and down the entire thing. I know I'm doing this right now. This is me just showing you what not to do. Because when you do that, you have to think of this as a three-dimensional form, which means that the spikes actually have a direction, and they're gonna move directions as it goes across that form. So right now, this is kind of, the spikes are kind of going in, and then they kind of meet up in the middle, and they're super concentrated in the middle because the spikes are kind of rounding around and meeting up. So you're gonna do extra spikes there in the middle. And then when you come back around this way, the spikes are gonna have a different direction from what's on this side. And you'll see, I'm not following the outline exactly here, okay? Don't stress about the outline. This is it's just a more general shape idea for you. That's what these outlines are for. They're not like coloring pages where you have to stay within them. That's not how we view them. It's just to give you an idea of where things go. Okay. So you see how the directions of those spikes kind of change as they kind of go this way and they go this way, and then they go curve back in and then meet up together in the middle. And then let's do some spikes on top. of the head.
What kind of hedgehog is this?
Are there different kinds of hedgehogs?
I might have to Google this.
You're gonna have to Google that.
It's a genuine question I just had.
You know what, Keenan? Every single time I paint something, I think, I'm gonna Google this so I have all of this great information to share. And never once have I done that. So I hope maybe you will take it upon yourself to do this.
I'm gonna go for getting 3 facts before this dude.
Yes, 3 facts on a hedgehog, please.
Okay, I'm on it.
Great, thanks. And one thing I want you guys to notice is when we're doing these spikes, my brush strokes are not the same. They're different sizes, they're different thicknesses, they're different lengths, and they're random, okay? Keep that in mind. Randomness is the key to nature. Do you have a fact? You looked up. Okay, what is it?
Okay, so hedgehogs mainly stay on the ground.
Hedgehogs mainly stay on the ground. Keaton, what a gem of information that you brought here.
I really want to know that.
That was, thank you. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Okay, that was step 2 we just did. Now we're gonna move on to step 3, which is we're gonna kind of blend out the spiky fur. Because the thing with fur textures or spiky textures, or any kind of textures you're really trying to paint, is you need to have a full value range. You need to have a highlight, you need to have medium, and you need to have dark. So right now we just put in our dark. This is gonna act as our dark for the texture. And now we're gonna put in our medium. But I want you to keep in mind that I'm not just gonna take a brush and go totally across it and wash out everything. If you look in our example here, we have some white spaces. And the reason for those white spaces is because we're trying to show that some things are sticking out, so they're highlighted. That light is hitting them, that's why they're white. So when you go ahead and add and blend this out, you're gonna leave random white spaces throughout the hedgehog, okay? So I'm just using water, and I'm just going to blend out the colors that are already there, and I'm kind of just doing these little brush strokes that kind of are going across, and you see how I'm leaving some random white spaces? That's what we want. Now, if your colors aren't blending, if you're doing this and you're like, I'm only getting a little bit of color, I want some richness, well, put a little bit of color on your brush as you blend. So I'm gonna grab, I wanna bring in some warmth. I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow ochre, and now I'm gonna blend out. And you can kind of change the color and play with it as you go. This is your painting. It's your world that you're making. So, you know, do whatever you want. The other thing I want you to keep in mind when you're blending on top of leaving white spaces is I also want you to keep your brush strokes in line with the direction of the spikes. So I'm not doing blending like this, okay, because my spike brush strokes aren't up and down like that. They're kind of curved. So it's really helpful for you and for our viewer to communicate the direction of this fur if we actually paint our brush strokes in that direction. Keenan, do you have another fact for me?
I do, actually.
I'm ready for it.
I feel like this is a good one because everyone wants to know what a group of an animal is called.
Yes!
The collective noun for a group of hedgehogs is array.
Array. Like, how do you...
A-R-R-A-Y.
A-R-R-A-Y. I can't wait to see the array of hedgehogs that will happen after we paint this tutorial. Okay, so I just picked up a little bit more color because I wanted to introduce other colors in here. I'm just kind of going over, and you might be like, this is really messy. Yes, it is. It's supposed to be. I think watercolor should be loose and fun. And yes, there are parts where we kind of go in with a fine tip brush and do details, but some of it we just got to let the water and the paint play together. Another tip for you guys is when you get to the edge here, and we kind of want the edge to be spiky because that's the texture that's going on, but we don't want it to be distracting because whenever you have a super dark outline on anything, it flattens it. So you want to make sure you use a light wash when you do this spiky texture on the edge. So what I like to do is sometimes just using water in the paints that's there, I'll go out and add my spikiness. And you can see it's just a light wash, but it still gives us that idea that there is like fur and there's like spikes, and I feel like I've said that word a million times, but you get it.
Spikes?
Yeah. Have I said that word a lot?
Well, there are a lot of spikes in a hedgehog.
Right?
So.
Okay, it's okay that I said that.
That's fine.
Wonderful. And if you are like me and you like to live on the edge,
oh my God.
I like to just drop in color. This is just pure yellow ochre I'm picking up, and I'm like, there. Then you can just like blend it out a little bit. But I just feel like adding these hints of strong color just makes your painting so much more interesting. And you can do the same thing with any of these colors. I'm gonna grab a little bit of violet. Do the same thing.
Edgy.
Super edgy. Do I know how that's gonna turn out? No, but we live on the edge like that. We just like to see what's gonna happen as we paint, okay? Wonderful. Now another tip, when you add your water and you're blending, I'm working fairly slow right now. I'm not blending really fast. So by the time I get over here, these little dark marks that I've already made, they're not gonna wanna blend as easy, because with watercolor, when something is still wet and you add to it, it blends out way easier. The longer you give something to dry, the harder it is to get that color to come out. But don't stress about that. If that happens to you, you're just gonna wanna use a little bit of color on your paintbrush when you're blending out. So I just picked up some color. And you can try and work it. It might not move. I waited way too long. But that's not a huge deal, because we go with the flow on things. So I'm just going to add some color in there. Because if I didn't add any color on there and I just use like a light wash, then it would be this super light color and then these like super dark spots. And we don't want that. We need a medium color in there. So that's why I'm going to add just hints of other colors while still leaving some white spaces. Maybe get a little bit of red in there. Let's just see. Oh yeah, that's nice. And you know, when you add these drops of other colors, and when you kind of add colors willy-nilly to this, you might have a side that's different colored than the other side. That's okay. I mean, that's exactly what happened on this example. If you looked on this left-hand side, it's kind of more of a yellow and a red. If you look on the right-hand side, it kind of has a green hint to it. And that's just how it happened. And I feel like with watercolor, you just have to let those things go and embrace it. And don't get mad at it for doing what watercolor is supposed to do, which is just kind of like blend out and bleed out and kind of do all these funky things. We celebrate those. What?
I just like that we celebrate those.
We do celebrate the funky things that happen in watercolor. Okay, now I'm going to go and I'm going to do my kind of spiky edges. Remember, you're going to follow the direction. So as it turns, I'm going to go here, and then now it's going to flip the other way. And another thing with spiky textures is that this is what you're going to want to do. Don't do it. You're going to want it to be super even, like this. See how like even that is? But here is the thing with nature. It does not work out that way. It is not perfectly, what's the word I'm looking for? Rhythmic, like that. Is that the right word?
That'll work.
That will work. It'll work.
Perfect.
So let some of your spikes be thinner. Let some of them be a little bit thicker. Let some of them go out more. Let some of them go in more. Really kind of get that randomness in there. Because if you try and make everything perfect across, it's just not going to become it. And I don't know why this is, but it makes your image seem more flat and not as three-dimensional as we're trying to get it. Gosh, these colors are just, I'm loving it.
For how the tone, like the brown, I like how vibrant they are.
Yeah, and if we just use straight sepia to do this, because even though this is technically brown, If we use just straight sepia, it would be almost this flat color. It would just be a one note. But we have hints of gold and red and orange. And if you're feeling kind of crazy, let's drop in some blue and purple and, you know, just kind of see what it does. Oh, that's pretty. And if it's too strong for you, blend that baby out. Maybe you're like, that's too strong of purple. Add some water, blend it out. Not as strong. Problem solved. So this is why I like mixing my colors, mixing my browns, adding random colors here and there. It just adds to it. It gives it more depth than you can achieve from just using one single color. Yes. These colors remind me of fall too. It's perfect because we're in November.
I'm kind of surprised you're not wearing camo.
Camo?
You should just wear camo in November for fun.
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I just moved to Missouri. Is that a thing in Missouri? I don't know if we wear a lot of camo in California.
It's appropriate to wear camo and do a deer.
Okay.
Yeah. Right?
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Makes sense.
That's how I get some Missouri people to like me. Camo, deers.
Yes.
Done.
Just tell them you're waiting to hunt.
Okay, so I kind of blended this out. I feel like I lost a little bit of my shadow right in the middle, right where they gather. So I just mixed another dark color. I'm gonna go in and put a little bit more dark back into this. That's the problem with blending, is sometimes you blend out those really dark notes. Don't stress about it. Go back in, put them back in. It's not a big deal. You can always do layers. You can always add to it. Okay, yeah. Let's do a little bit right underneath here. Okay, and now we need to do the top part. Now, if you're getting really frustrated with your things not blending, it might be better for you if you actually do it in chunks. So let's say you just do your dark shadow chunks here, then you blend it out, and then you do the next section. Maybe see if that helps to get the blending out. For me, I just went all in because I'm crazy like that. I don't know.
I'm glad you said it.
I did say it, so you don't have to say
Brock told me
it.
some things, but I wasn't sure if they were true.
Keenan, do you have a third fact for us for our hedgehog? Okay, what we've learned so far.
Okay.
Hedgehogs stay on the ground.
Mainly stay on the ground.
Mainly stay on the ground.
Yes, and I didn't make that fact up.
I love that it listed it. Facts about hedgehogs. Yes. They're on the ground.
They're mainly on the ground. They can swim, and they do climb trees. I didn't know that.
They can swim.
Yeah, but those are just side notes.
Okay, side notes to the first fact, not their own facts. Okay.
So I'm going to go with the third fact is how many genres of hedgehog there are.
Okay.
There are 17 in 5. I think the word basically means areas, but I can't pronounce it. I'm not gonna try.
So there are 17 different kinds of hedgehogs in 5 areas.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I still think my favorite one was that first one.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm glad you like that one.
Genius. Love it. Okay, so I blended out my top spikes. I added a little bit of like a medium value here because they weren't blending that great. Don't stress about when that happens, you know? Sometimes we get mad at our painting. Don't get mad at it. You know what I mean? Just like roll with it. Just figure out what you can do to make it work. That's it for our step 3. Let me check. I have my notes on the back here. Yes, step 3. Now we're going to do step 4, which is we're going to do like this part here, which is like the furry part of the hedgehog. Now, hedgehogs usually are like brown, spiky, right? And then on the inside they have this white fur. But when you're painting something, paper white is very different from like the white you see on people. Like if you look at the whites of someone's eyes, that's not actually just pure white. There's color in there. It's the same thing with fur. It's the same thing with everything except for a white piece of paper, which is it has hints of other colors in it. So what we need to do is we need to create a color that gives the idea of white, but is not stark white so it looks unfinished, right? Because this, if we just left this white right here, you're gonna be like, that just looks like an unfinished painting. So What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it kind of a brown hint since there's brown around it. And basically we're just going to use a lot of water and very little paint. Because with watercolor, we don't really have white paint. We kind of just add more water, and that lets the white of the paper show through more. And that's how we get lighter colors or lighter values. So I just did a little swoop over here of some random color mixture that I had from my spikes. I dipped my brush in water, and I added water to it. So now it's just this really soft wash. And I'm going to kind of go through and just put this color in across everywhere. Now we have lots of different kind of outlines going on over here, and I'll show you what we're going to do with those in just a minute. But for now, we're just going to put in this super light wash. When I get to the edges here, I'm just going to do random spiky swooshes. Now around the little hands, I have some outlines here, right here and a little bit underneath there. And the reason for that is because these hands are actually like poking out of the fur, and so we need to put some shadow there, and that's how we show that there is space and depth. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this darker brown. I'm going to grab a little bit of the violet with it too, and kind of around the top part of the hand where that outline is, I'm going to put that color. I'm going to rinse my brush, and then I just blend it out a little bit. And already, just by putting that color in, if we look at this side compared to this side, we have some depth, right? This is communicating to our viewer that this hand is coming out from the fur. It goes deep underneath. This one, if we left it the same value, would just seem like the hand is just like glued on to that part and it doesn't actually come out. So that's all we're putting in, just a little bit of shadow for depth. So I'm going to do it on the other side. I'm going to do it a little bit underneath the hand too. Put it down, rinse my brush, blend it out. Just using a damp brush. If it's too wet, dry it off on your paper towel. And blend, blend that baby out. So you can see here, we haven't colored in our hands yet, but it's more clear to our viewer that they're coming out from somewhere and there's some depth in there. Now the other thing that we're going to do is the fur, the space underneath like the chin and before it meets the spike, that actually needs to be darker. And the reason why that needs to be darker is because the mouth is out over it, so it's casting a shadow on the white fur underneath it. So even though it's white fur, it's going to appear darker because it's shadowed and it's farther away from the light. So I'm going to grab a darker brown and just underneath this chin, I'm going to put that in there, and then I like to blend out because we don't want like blocky sections, right? We want smooth transitions. That's what blending is for, just kind of smoothing stuff out.
How do you choose what size brush you use?
So for me, I mainly work with 2 brushes. I like to do my round 6 for most of my work, especially larger areas. Now I use my round 2 when I'm doing details, like when we do the eyes and when we do the nose, and maybe when we do the fingers, we'll switch to a round 2. But the wonderful thing about rounds is no matter what size you have, they all have this really nice narrow point. So even if I was using a round 10 right now, which is this guy right here, we still have this nice narrow point, so I could still get in there. I can still get in there and do some detail work with it because it has a point. That's the great thing about rounds. So that's why I like to use my round 6, because I can cover a lot of areas, but the brushes you use are totally a personal choice, okay? If you feel better using small brushes, use small brushes. Who cares? Do whatever feels right to you. That's the point of today's lesson. Do what feels good for you. Okay. So I'm going to add just another little layer of shadow behind these hands. Sometimes you have to do a couple layers when you're working with shadows, because when we blend, sometimes we just blend it out too much. So if you have to do it a couple of times, don't stress, that's okay. Do it as many times as it takes till it feels good. And I'm going to do another little shadow here behind the mouth or underneath the chin. Then it's going to kind of blend out. Okay, now before I do the hands, I'm going to add a little bit of shadow on the face. So around the eyeballs, I have these kind of sections outlined. And the reason for that is because, and you can feel it on your own face, right? All the animals have this. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because I don't know every animal, but your eye sockets, right? Your skull, your eye sockets are empty, and then your eyeballs kind of poke out from that. So on everybody, you have your bone, and then it goes in where your eye sockets are, and then it goes back out where your eyeballs are. So you have to kind of shadow around the eyeballs to communicate to the viewer that it's not just totally flat structure, right? There's hard and there's soft, and then it sticks out with the eyeballs. So you need to put some of that shadow around those eyeballs so people know that the viewer can tell that it goes in and then it pops out. Is it weird that I use pop a lot when talking about eyeballs?
Maybe you should say soda.
Soda? You're right. You're right. Okay, so this is where I switched to my round 2. So because I'm using smaller areas, smaller brush strokes, I'm taking some of this darker brown and I'm just kind of working. It goes in front of the eye a little bit, on the top and the bottom, and then behind just a little bit. Don't be afraid to blend it out. And when I talk about blending it out, what I want you to do is you're just going to take a damp brush. You're going to go along the edge of that shadow and kind of spread it. You're not going to start from here and spread that out because that would spread out too far. You're only going to go at the very edge of where you laid down that color to blend it out. And already you can tell from this eye to this eye that this one has depth around the eye. So it's just those little changes that you do that really help your painting. And then he also has like a little bit of tuft of depth right in the middle in between his noses. And so I'm kind of just using my round 2, I put some color in, and then I'm kind of just like wisping my brush. That's what I'm calling that brush stroke, the wisp.
I think that's a dance move too.
Is it? Can you demonstrate that dance move?
No.
No?
No.
All right, all
I'm
right.
probably wrong about the dance move thing.
My goal in life is to get you to just like start dancing in the middle of this. And then I'll start dancing. It'll just be a dance party. It'll be great. I love dancing.
My kids would love that too.
I'm not great at it. It's just something I thoroughly enjoy doing. Okay, and I'm kind of wisping a little bit around the eyes on this side too. Just adding some wisping texture to this fur. Okay, it's looking good. I know it looks creepy right now. Animals always look creepy until you put in the eyeballs, so you just got to push through it. Trust me on that. Okay, now we're going to put in the hands. Now the hands are similar in skin color where it's that technical word pinky, that pinky color. So grab a little bit of that red, grab a little bit of that yellow ochre, get a nice peachy pink color, and we're going to put in the hands. And remember, you can adjust the mixture to fit with your painting. All of our paintings are going to have slightly different colors because we're mixing so much, and adjust it to your painting. For me, it's okay that I have maybe a slightly stronger pink because I have such strong purple in my fur, so those colors kind of make sense. But if your fur color is more of the green or blue and you're doing like straight up pink hands, that might be a little funky. So kind of just like look and see what's going on with your painting. And then I'm just going to do another swoop kind of underneath to show that there's like a bottom part to these hands. We're seeing the top and the bottom. But again, this is just loose painting, more gestural. It's okay if it's not totally flushed out with details, okay? But just by having that single value and then a slight shadow underneath it, we can tell that we're seeing the top and the underneath part of the hands. And that's really all we need to communicate. Just a little guy right there. I'm just gonna blend out some of these markings over here. Most of the time I love different watercolor textures, but sometimes if you get like super strong lines in them, it can be distracting. So I'm just taking a damp brush and you know, kind of spreading those out. I want to do another run of color across my nose. So we're still working on the white fur part of this. We're still on step 4. We're getting really close to being done. You guys are doing great. I'm just going to introduce just another color just around my nose. Kind of makes it stick out a little bit more. Okay, now we are going to move to the very last step, which is the details. So what we're going to do for this is we are going to put in the eyeballs, we are going to do the nose, and then we have a little bit of mouth line, and we can do whiskers. Now whiskers are really tricky, so if you don't feel like doing whiskers, hedgehogs are not one of those animals that you have to put whiskers on. Like, there are some animals that are really defined by their whiskers, like rabbits. When we did the rabbit, it looked funny until we put in the whiskers. But with hedgehogs, they have like spikes that are, that's their more defining quality. So we have those. So if you don't want to put in whiskers, it's not super important that you do that. So if whiskers freak you out and you're like, I'm really bad at whiskers, don't put them in on this animal. Not a big deal. Okay, so to get, again, we don't have black. So I'm just basically mixing all of the colors together to get a really muddy, dark value. It's not going to be pure black, but basically it's going to be almost like a really dark blue is kind of what I'm going for. So maybe add a little bit more blue to your mixture. And if it reads as too blue, then you can grab a little bit more color and mix that out. I'm going to add maybe a little bit more yellow ochre to that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now I have this like super dark mixture. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put in the little nostrils on the hedgehog, and then we're going to do the under part of the nose. And maybe a couple layers of that so it's nice and dark. Now we're not going to finish that off. We still have to add the other color, but it's too wet right now. If we try to blend it out or do the rest of it, this super dark color would bleed into it and it would get kind of messy. And this one, we want to keep a little bit more of that detail so we can kind of tell what's going on. So I'm going to move on to another part of the face while that dries. I can do the mouth. I'm just going to kind of follow these little curved lines. Now, for thin lines, when you're doing really detailed lines, you want to make sure that you're being super light pressure with your brush. And what I like to do to make sure that I don't have too much paint or water is I actually just kind of put my paintbrush back and forth on here. It gets rid of that excess paint, and then it also makes like a really narrow point on my paintbrush, so then I know that my line is going to be nice and thin. So I'm just going to put that in there. And then I'm going to rinse my brush just a little bit and then softly put in a shadow right here. Right where that kind of opening is between those two upper lips. Look at that cute little mouth. It's cute. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and now I'm going to move to the eyeballs. That nose is still wet, so I'm not going to address that yet. And same thing, and you'll see that there are actually kind of like little areas that were in the outline. It makes him seem like he has crazy eyes in the outline, but those are glares, and those you want to leave white. So when you're putting in your dark colors, try and work around those little outlines that we have in there. because these are inky black. And the reason why we have those little glares in there is because eyeballs are wet. And so when light hits off a wet surface, it has reflections and glares in it. So that's why these little eyeballs have glares. You might need to do a couple layers to get that nice dark color. Just do as many as it takes. And you just want to make sure that you're using mostly paint and not a lot of water to get that nice dark color. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. And this is great. Like, this is not a black paint color. We mixed this color. That's how great mixing can be. I actually know there are a lot of watercolorists that actually just don't even buy black because they like mixing it, and it gives just their painting more of a richness in there, but I don't really care. Sometimes it's just easier to use black, so I'll use black. Again, there's no wrong way to do it. Whatever feels right to you. Oh, he's cute. Got cute little eyes looking at us. Okay, now we're gonna let that dry for a second. And now my nose is dry enough that I can kind of fill out the rest of the nose. So what I like to do is I actually like to spread the color that's already there. I'm just gonna gently move it to fill in the rest of these white spaces. But there is a space kind of right here that I'm gonna leave white, because same thing with the nose. It's gonna have a little bit of a glare on it because it's moist. And so it's just gonna be like, just on that left-hand side, a little glare. And by having, see how we have, you know, 3 different values going on. We have our highlight, we have our medium value, we have our dark value. This nose has so much more dimension. If we were just to color it the same gray color, it's gonna look flat. So whenever there is an opportunity to add dimension, when you're drawing a 3-dimensional form, add it. Okay. And the details part is kind of the part where you can go in and fix anything that's really kind of bothering you or distracting you, or you want to adjust anything. I want to fix the eye right there because this white part underneath that black chunk is kind of throwing me off, but my black is too wet, so I'm going to wait for that to dry. And I'm going to kind of work out this white for a little bit more because I feel like it needs to be a little bit darker than it is. So I'm just going to do another wash of color. Blend it out. Put some shadow back in if I lost a little bit of my shadow around the hands. We're focused time because we're quiet. There we go. I'm gonna do a little extra shadow here. And then now I'm gonna do some more around the eyes. Now he kind of looks angry with that brush stroke.
A little angry.
A little angry. I'm gonna blend some of that out so it's not such a strong angular line. There we go. Now he's nice again. Okay. Okay, I'm feeling really good about him. He's nice and cute. Maybe I'll do a little extra dark strokes at the top here. Okay, I'm gonna do some whiskers though, because, you know, it's me. It's me. I'm wild like that. Now you want to make sure that it's dry. If you try and do black, you know, or dark strokes across and it's wet, it's going to bleed out, and we want nice sharp lines. So I'm just using this dark. I'm going to do the same thing, kind of flip it back and forth so I get a nice point. Starting kind of from here, like that lip, that upper lip that we have going on, I'm just going to go out. Now these aren't super, super dark, and that's okay. Sometimes we just want like little hints, but we don't want it to be too distracting. Okay, and I like to flip mine over. It's easier for me to go out than it is to go in. So I just flip my painting over. And that's it. You guys, we did it. We did our cute little hedgehog. I'm gonna blend that out. Now it's done. Okay. Good job, you guys. I can't wait to see what yours turns into. Let's name it. Let's name this hedgehog. Keenan, since it's your first time.
I kind of want to name him Thomas.
Thomas, that is such a great name.
Thank you, Thomas the Hedgehog.
This is Thomas the Hedgehog. He's so cute. Now, all of your little hedgehogs that you paint, they're gonna have their own personalities. It's so fun to name them. Share them, name them. If you put it on Instagram, tag us in it. Our Instagram name is Let's Go Make Art. Facebook, it's the same. And if you wanna be part of a super wonderful, supportive community, we started Let's Make Art Together on Facebook. I think we're at a little over 2,000 members now, and it's actually turned into this really wonderful space where people who are painting can share their work, and it's positive. And if you're scared, you can talk about that. And if you don't like your painting, you can also talk about that. And if you love it, you can share it. Basically, it's just a positive, wonderful space. So post your work there, become a member, interact, join this community because it's a lot of fun. Again, if you want to paint this and you're not part of our subscription, you can buy it at letsmakeart.com. For the kits, $15, or if you want to subscribe for all the projects for the month, $35. Do I need to say anything else?
That was beautiful.
That's it.
What are we doing next time?
Next time we start in December. Oh, I can actually show you, I think. I have a reference photo. I don't have the original painting. What? December, we are doing December florals. Loose, beautiful, gorgeous florals. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So that is going to be our next week. And that's it, you guys. Bye.